Well, I know there's a way to make it full screen.
Here,
Oh,
up in,
up there.
in the right-hand corner. There you go.
Okay.
You're going on Caleb.
Pardon?
Text report.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have to have the right touch. Anyhow, and it was laying on the roof. Here was the culprit. Now, you see this, this fence here, let me see. This fence over here, here's one of my anchor posts. It was a 10 foot tall, that's buried about 4 feet in concrete, next to the fence, which was only 19 feet away from the edge of our house. So I didn't have as long a lead as you would normally have for a tower that tall. And I had one over here, and then there's one farther back up there you can't see. You can see the edge of an old satellite dish there. But anyhow, you can see that fence, and here's the, I think it's 10-inch diameter well casing. And I had a steel bracket up here, and I had a turnbuckle to which was attached 2 turnbuckles, and the other one that was up here out of sight, you can see this eye bolt up here. Here's the one that broke on the other one that was identical to this, and it was a 1/2 inch, but see right there? Can everybody read that? C-H-I-N-A? Genuine from Harbor Freight. Combination of things, and I didn't, in retrospect, normally if you've got something like this, you have you put a couple of extra loops of your guy wire around just in case something comes loose. So I did not use very good engineering judgment on putting this up, and as a result, my tower came down. But you live and learn. This is at the new homestead in Webster County, Missouri. This was the first structure we had out there, a 40-foot shipping container. I had them, the property, it's about 600 feet back from the road, and it slopes off quite a bit off to the right there. And when I had them drop it out there, I had them take it about as far back down as I could. So you don't want a shipping container you're going to store stuff on like that. So you can level a shipping container by yourself with a farm jack and some railroad ties. But anyhow, the point here is, this is one of those 31-foot sticks of 2 3/8 inch drill stem from Wheeler Metals. We had putting up an antenna workshop out there a couple of years ago, and we put this up, and this is a UVS 300 up top there. That one actually has a black fiberglass radome on it, and it actually came from Walmart online. I think it was the best price I could find at the time, $89. But these, what appear to be guy wires here, are just some cheap Harbor Freight rope that it's stuck on. This is stuck on top of a piece of rebar pounded into the ground. It was raised up, set on the rebar, and then it's lashed off to the corner up here of the shipping container. So these ropes don't really need to be there. It's probably going to come down sometime, but we'll lower it down alongside the 40-foot length of the shipping container, same way it came up when it comes time to come. But that's something that can be put up relatively cheaply and inexpensively without a whole lot of trouble. This is the barn out there, the back side of it. The shipping container's over on the other side of the barn. And this is the Roan 25. It's up about 45 feet so far. I'm planning on putting up another 100 feet or so. You can see most of that on the ground there. And let's see, I was, at this point, I think this was last summer, I was waiting on concrete to pour for some proper anchors for a 140-foot tower. We're putting a lot of concrete in the new house out there, and so when there's left over, rather than having to dump it on the ground or take it back and pour bunker blocks back at the ready mix plant, I had my holes dug and set up and ready to some pieces of railroad rail for guy posts stuck in the ground. And so I've got two of those completed now, and then the third one that's kind of down the hill on the left there is yet to be done. Maybe pretty soon, although I could temporarily anchor to one of those 2,000-pound bunker blocks that I've got sitting down there. This is a newbie tower climber, a member of our Webster County Aries group, who wanted me to teach him about tower climbing. And so he's got my belt borrowed there, and I said, if you're going to climb in a tower, you got to trust your equipment. So he's up maybe 20 feet there and said, you got to learn to tie yourself off around the tower and let go. And trust that that rope is not going to break. And so he was able to do that. And he's since found another tower in Rogersville that he's going to be taking down soon. I think he lives in Fordland. And one of the younger folks, good guy. This is a 60-foot Roan SSV tower. It's a former Kansas Department of Transportation tower, one of 4 of them I bought last year on Purple Wave. And that's 60 feet up to the top. Still got temporary guys on it there. I think at that point, I don't remember if I took, that was before the cement was poured in the base. I actually put that tower up by myself. I assembled it on the ground, and my contractor has a SkyTrack telehandler out there that'll telescope up 57 feet. And he said I could use it, so after work, when they were done, I had the tower assembled and picked it up with a telehandler, and you can kind of see right there, I've got a nylon tow strap that I've used to attach to the pallet forks on the telehandler to lift up the tower just slightly above the midpoint to raise it up. And I think you can, there's 1 inch rebar, 3 of them down here for the base. I think they were pieces 7 feet long. And this is it sitting on the hole up above here before the concrete was poured. You can see the pieces of 1 inch rebar. When I got those towers, when they took them down, they basically cut them off right below the mounting base there, so there's just a little stub there. And to make sure this was welded properly, I took those down to my go-to welder down in Ozark, Kevin at Priority Welding. He's a graduate of Tulsa Welding School. I said, I need to make sure I could weld it myself, but I'm not sure it would be done right. So I wanted it to be done right. He welded those up for me for a new base to go in the concrete. And you can see the concrete's poured down there in the bottom. This picture that shows all 3 towers, in the back there behind the barn, there's tower. I hate it when that happens. Why did they do that? Okay. Back in the bottom there is the one that's right by the barn. That's going to be the 140-foot Roan 25. Right here is the 60-footer freestanding tower. And this is the 52-foot motorized tilt-over crank up. It'll tilt over to the right there, and it'll crank up to 52 feet. And it looks like it's pretty much in the woods, but I got that telehandler. The contractor's driver, most of the crews out there are Amish, so they have a chauffeur that chauffeurs them to the job site. And he operates the telehandler because they're not supposed to. And so when he wasn't doing anything for me, they've got kind of a work platform, and I had him lift me up there with the chainsaw and trim the trees up there so that when I get a KT34XA on top of this thing, it will not hit any trees when it's up. And let's see, oh, yeah. I bought the high gain crank up tilt over with KLM KT34A, it wasn't the XA, and several other antennas. He had recently retired and moved from Nebraska to Kansas City, and he ended up in a suburb where he couldn't have a tower. So I got the motorized crank up tower, KT34XA, a 13B2 Cushcraft beam, and a bunch of other antenna pieces and stuff, I think all for $1,200. So I thought that was a pretty good deal. This was me putting up that tower with my Kubota tractor loader backhoe. which I should have used the telehandler. It would have been easier, but I did get it put up with this. It's a similar, why does it keep doing that? Okay. Anyhow, similar 1-inch rebar here, similar size hole. Something seems wrong here. Anyhow, okay. I recently acquired this. This is a 70-foot tower I mentioned earlier. It was free. You can see it there in the background. It was sitting on one of these bunker blocks that's turned sideways so you don't have that little ridge on it. The top of it with the ridge has a piece of rebar in it so that you can lift them up. It also makes a good tie point for guide wires. Anyhow, I just inquired and they said, yep, you can have it. This is the Purple Wave auction site with the 4 towers from Kansas DOT. And this is me when I got home with all 4 of those towers loaded on a 16-foot trailer behind the Green Taco. It's about a 1,000-mile round trip, but I think it's worth getting it. I've used one of them so far and not quite sure what I'm going to do with the others. I have an idea, but so far my wife has vetoed it. This was the 52-foot crank up when I got back from Kansas City. I think this is probably 2 or 3 years ago. I don't remember for sure when. But same trailer, same Tacoma, same, wasn't near as far a trip, but to go find a good deal on used towers and antennas. Okay. This is for towers still possibly looking for a good home if anybody's looking for something. This is a 3-element tri-bander with I think it's 4 elements on 6 meters and 5 elements on 2 meters at the QTH of Keith Jeffers, A0BA. I'm not sure if he was in the club or not. I didn't know him well. He didn't live that far from me. Occasionally I talked to him on, I think on maybe the 10-meter net. And I didn't even know he had cancer, and I think this was in 2023 when I took this, and I noticed it when I drive by out to the farm from our house, that it was always pointed in the same direction. It used to be, it moved periodically, because had a rotator. And so anyhow, and I looked him up one day and found out he had become a silent key in November 23. And so anyhow, I stopped by and inquired of his widow, would she be interested in getting rid of the tower? And she said she was finally ready to do that, but she'd have to check with the family first. I left her my contact info, and I haven't heard back from her yet. But in the meantime, I got that 70-foot tower, so I didn't need this, but if any of you all are in need of a tower, possibly, usually if it's a tower that's still standing, the price is a whole lot cheaper than one that's already taken down and on the ground. But sometimes down and on the ground, you can find great prices, great deals on them. But anyhow, I didn't pursue inquiring about that any further, but I have told several people that, hey, if you're interested, go politely knock on the door and tell them you're interested. This is another tower about maybe half a mile from the other one at the it's at the corner of Farm Road 197 and 132. It's at the former home of my former Glendale High School physics teacher, probably the best teacher I ever had. And I'd heard he moved to Florida years ago. I stopped by to inquire how Willie Bear was doing. That's what we fondly called him in high school. He was known if you weren't paying attention. Now remember, I graduated from Glendale in '69, back when things were a little more lax on what teachers could do to maintain discipline in the classroom. And if you weren't paying attention or talking or anything, there was a good chance a piece of chalk or an eraser would come flying at you fast. And if you were sitting in front of somebody doing that, you had to pay attention too, so you could know to duck. Usually, or if you were sitting behind somebody doing that, you'd have to pay attention. Anyhow, the long and the short of it was, sometimes people would get dusted with chalk on an eraser or whatnot. But anyhow, he was a great teacher in my opinion. Anyhow, his son Mark lives there now. He told me his dad had passed away in 21, and Mark wasn't a him. At the time, he wasn't interested in getting rid of the tower. I think it's probably about 80 feet. No antenna on top. I think there's a light maybe at the 30-foot level behind the house there. Used to have an old swimming pool back there. But who knows, he might be interested in getting rid of it now. If another opportunity, go knock. The worst they can do is say no. Real tower work. This gig was back in 2007, replacing the light bulb atop the tower itself. Right here is 1,000 feet above ground. Going on up, the light bulb is up there, and this is a 60-foot pylon. It's basically a big pipe about 16 inches in diameter. And this is the light bulb. This is down at the base of the tower, and you can see how it comes to basically one point down here. It's got lots of sets of guys going down, but that's so that they can actually, in high wind conditions, they can rotate ever so slightly and pivot ever so slightly. All the coaxes coming out here and going up the tower. I don't remember who that is there. That might be me headed up. Probably not, because it looks like they might have on a hard hat, and I probably didn't. But anyhow, it's the baby tower out at Portland. The non-baby towers are 2,000 feet, but they typically have elevators. This just has a ladder. Some say it helps to be a little bit crazy, or a lot crazy if you're going to climb towers. This is me up on there. You notice I've got my trusty THF6 and a plug-in mic, but there's also, my radio is tethered. I think it was tied to one of my button loops with some nylon string, so that even if you drop something just like as simple as a radio from 1,000 feet, if it hits somebody down below, it can ruin their whole day. Probably ruin your radio too. But this is me up on the pylon, and this is my son Robert, who wanted to climb the tower with me that day. And I told him before we started, I said, if you don't do anything, if you feel like you're getting uncomfortable, just stop, because you don't want to be uncomfortable up there. So anyhow, he was perfectly comfortable coming up inside the tower. The faces of the tower are 6 feet, and there's a ladder that comes up in the corner. But once you get up to the 1,000-foot level, you have to climb outside the tower and then climb up the rungs up the pylon. And he got a little bit of the heebie-jeebies when it started to do that. And I said, just stay down there. I'll be fine up here changing the bulb. And anyhow, it was a fun day. This is a picture. I think that's his head down there. This is kind of the edge of the ladder coming up when we have to go out. And this is looking up the pylon with a bunch of the circular polarized, probably the FM circular polarized in. Of course, they shut the transmitter down while we're up there doing that. Yeah. But this is looking, he was okay with, it looks like he's climbing around there, but he had on, you'll see another picture, he's got the full OSHA-approved safety harness that Bill Chambers loaned him to go up the tower. So he's tethered off well to the tower while he's hanging out here posing for the camera. I'll probably send this picture to his Colombian girlfriend that he's trying to get her into the United States. Let's see, yeah, this is looking up the tower. They still had chains, ratcheted chains holding some stuff on the pylon up there. You can see climbing rungs there, and so that's how you get up to the top.
It's not how I get up there.
Hey, Alan, how much did that tower move since it has a point in the cables when you were up there? How much
On that, it was pretty calm that day. you can feel it move a little bit, but it really wasn't that. I always thought it'd be interesting to be up there in a storm. But I didn't think it was interesting enough to actually go out and do it. But so you could feel it move. I've been up that tower before that, working on it when SMARC had the 9-1 repeater out there. That's another story, but working on that, I think it was the 400 and 600 foot level. And
Yeah, and you had to come down because the storm was coming in.
yeah, and it was, part of me said, it'd be kind of fun to be up there in the storm, and the other part of me says, and have on some rubber glove, good insulation in case the tower got hit. And
You could get a good look at a funnel cloud.
yeah,
These funnel
I
clouds.
always wanted, the Conservation Department Forestry lookout towers, I think some of it, basically it's a big metal box up at, I think some of them are 100 foot tall. Johnny Morris bought one or more of them. I always thought it'd be way cool to be up in one of those in a lightning storm, sitting on an insulated stool in the middle, looking out, but anyhow, never did that. Let's see here. Okay, this is Bill Chambers outfitting Robert with a complete climbing harness. It goes over, it goes under, it goes around. It's got a energy absorbing lanyard and all that good stuff to be proper fall protection devices nowadays. Anyhow, that's about it. Any questions? Anybody want to? My wife says I'm not allowed to climb any tall towers anymore, basically towers for pay. I still do ham scale towers. So who all has a tower by chance?
I was done at 40 feet.
Yeah.
That's the highest I climbed.
But you can, like that 52-foot crank up, you can, I went out and observed, I forgot his call. He had, I've got pictures, but not on here. I think it was like an 50 or 80 foot tower with a beam on it that he hired a local utility crew on a Saturday to come out, and basically he had everything ready. Basically, he had the base board. It was something, he had the bolts already in place to where the tower base plate, you just basically had to lift it up and set it on the base plate and attach the guy wires. And he had, I think it's probably 4 or 5 of us out there, plus the utility crew that with one of those utility cranes. Yeah, and I think they were there for maybe an hour and a half. Basically, they showed up, it was ready to go. They hooked onto it, picked it up. We tethered it around a little bit, set it down, and anchored it off, and leveled it up, and all was done. And he had his antennas, he already had it up, and I think sitting on some tall ladders with the I think he had a beam on it, and anyhow, the coax and everything was already rigged on the tower, so that all basically you had to do is stand it up and set it on. So he didn't have to go up in the air, and he got himself a tower. And I think it was a used tower. I forgot where he got it, but it can be had pretty cheap. There's right now on purplewave.com. There's, let's see, these tower sections here. It's a 60-foot tower, and it comes in 3 20-foot sections, and they've got one of them, basically the base section, which is 20 foot long, which I bid on it at $10. It would be worth it for me to just go out and get an extra 20-foot section, but I think it's up to $160 now. It's just the base section. I don't know how they ended up with that and not the others, but as it turns out, the bolt pattern at the bottom of the 20-foot section is the same as the bolt pattern at the top of the base section. So you could, in theory, put 2 of those. You could make it an extra 20 feet to go up 80 feet if you were going to guy it. I wouldn't want to do that unguided, but if you were going to guy it, you could. But anyhow, and I thought I had a picture in here of another Purple Wave deal. Okay.
Hey,
There's-
Alan, at Menards, they sell a 4-foot section RCA TV cable or TV antenna mast. They slip together
Yeah,
in 4-foot sections.
okay.
They currently have those.
At Menards?
Yeah.
They're not the old military ones, are they?
No,
There were some military 4-foot ones that came in a bag for, I think, going up 32 feet. I think there's 8 of them, go up 32
No,
feet.
they're sold in individual sections in the
Okay.
TV area.
They're pretty lightweight, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
My
They've also
antenna's
got-
already bent to them.
okay.
They also got the thicker one next
Yeah.
to it that they snap together.
Well, I mentioned earlier the 31-foot lengths of pipe at Wheeler Metals. When I was working at Fort Riley, they had some old solar-powered parking lot lights. Basically, they're on aluminum streetlight poles in the parking lot, the hospital out there. And the bottom line is that I don't know who had the genius idea to do this, but they had the batteries in a box up at the top. So when the lead-acid batteries died after 2, 3, or 4 years, they didn't replace them. So these lights didn't work, so they hired a contractor to take them down. And me being you do anything with those old poles and solar panel stuff? No. Can I have them? Sure. As it turned out, one of the guys in the contract, I think there was, I forgot if 2 of them or 3 of them, but anyhow, I only ended up with 1 because somebody else wanted some too. But anyhow, how do you get a 30-foot aluminum pole home when you're driving back and forth with a Toyota Corolla and you've got a 4-foot by 6-foot trailer? Well, up at the top of I think the top end of the aluminum streetlight pole was about this big around, and the bottom end was about yay big around, and it had 4 bolt holes, and the one I got was partially broke. The long and the short of it is, if you have your 4-foot by 6-foot trailer, and by putting proper bracing on it, you can get a piece of channel aluminum and bolt it to the top of the pole and put a trailer hitch on it, to where you basically hitch the top of the pole to behind your Corolla, or whatever other vehicle you want to tow it with. The trailer's 20 feet back, and the pole goes through, and it's lashed with ratcheting tie-down straps to the tongue on the trailer. And you put a flashing bicycle light on the ass end of it.
That's about as redneck as you can get.
Oh yeah, not really hillbilly, but I drove it back from Fort Riley, Kansas to Springfield, and had it